Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the Solo Club podcast. And before we start this amazing episode, let's drop that beat. Yo, what is up, everybody? How are you guys doing today?
Good. How are
Doing
you?
Good. How are you?
Doing great. Today's topic. Mindset, but we're gonna go over tactical things, applicable things about trusting the process. So, what do you guys think about the topic?
Does the process know we're trusting it?
And if it does, what is it going to do about it?
I
That's
think
the tactical part.
results will show, right? I feel like it goes both ways. We have to trust the process, and the process has to know that we're trusting it.
But does the process, is it legit? I mean, what if that process isn't the right process?
Oh, yeah. Right? Is the process trustworthy?
Oh,
I don't know.
Well,
Yeah.
well, when we talk about trusting the process, one of the really definitive examples that I have pretty much applied in my life, I've learned from my favorite author, Simon Sinek. He said about trusting the process, he said, getting in shape is not a 20-hour day of working out. It's not about, once a week I would just go for 8 hours in the gym and then just get results. He said, but if you do 20 minutes of walking every day consistently, you will see significant result. At some point, there is that tipping point of, your physical activity being way higher than your, intake as far as over calories and stuff like that. And he did say, though, too, that just because, I ate a whole gallon of ice cream today doesn't mean I lose all the progress, too. So there is a level that you reach at certain point that one bad day or one bad step is not going to be that detrimental the way we fear it.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about that?
Yeah. That one bad day, I think, really throws us for a loop sometimes and makes us think, oh, this process is not trustworthy, right? But, I mean, all of that makes me think of trusting the process, like, from in the bigger picture sense, right? Like, the process, as in, like, the whole scheme of what you're doing. Progress is a process, right? So that is kind of like overarchingly what we're talking about, but also there's the really nuts and bolts version of that in running a business and running an eBay store is to trust your own processes, right? And also to trust yourself, and if you need to adjust your processes so that they are more trustworthy or so that they bear more fruit, then you can do that. And all of that is part of that big picture process. So there's like a couple different layers of it for me, I guess.
I think the weight loss thing might be a bad example, because if you take one day off and you just eat, like, let's say you melt gallons of ice cream and you just drink it all day, you are going to gain, well, it depends how much you eat.
Right.
But if you don't list for one day and you list again the next day, I don't think it's going to do much. Yeah. Maybe it just depends what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you don't ship, that's gonna hurt.
Yeah. There are certain, right? There are certain processes that could hurt you, right? But in the, like what Anna said, in the bigger picture, it's still positive, net positive. And I think, like, to be honest, we don't want to live our life like a robot, right? Like, I myself I could just feel it if I do so many things the same over and over again, every day, it becomes like a mundane. I become unhappy, and I'm unmotivated. So I feel like those are like things that we have to be aware that there are things that you have to do, right? Like what Glenn said, shipping. You like you. I feel like you have to do that every day. I believe you have to do it every day if you wanna, get that top rated seller, or get highest customer satisfaction, or you wanna evade those "where is my package" questions every day.
Well, yeah.
But there are also those things that I feel like it's just good to build in as a habit. And I think, would you agree that over time, any process that you create becomes habitual?
I think in the sense of like the processes that we use to run our stores, I think they just are, because everything we do in our businesses is kind of cyclical. But, it just makes me think like, okay, say that like I love making lasagna, right? I probably only make lasagna like a couple times a year. And so I wouldn't call that a habit, but the 2 times a year that I make it, it's like the same process every time because I know the process is trustworthy, right? And so I rely on that process whenever it comes around, whether it's a habit or not. But I think as it applies to like how we run our stores, I think it usually is a habit. And that's part of, honestly, that habitual nature, I think, is part of what gives us the ability to trust, because we have so much evidence from our experience with those habitual processes that they are trustworthy and that they work, right? And even when the circumstances ebb and flow, like the process is still working in the bigger picture.
No, 100% agree. Now, to switch gears, I want to ask Glenn, like, trusting in a particular process. I think this is one of the things that I have seen this guy do over and over again. That he picks one and he sticks with it for so long, and everybody is like, whoa, like that's like they get surprised by the result. But for me, I've seen him like been part of like building his YouTube channel like to the 100K, and he was like super consistent building content, like he had scheduled content, and then now to a point like his whatnot shows are getting like 150 to 200 people consistently, when at one point it was like 30 to 50, and what do you think, like how does that walk us through your brain when you pick a process? It's like, no, this is gonna work. It's like or like I'm sticking with it, and it's just a matter of time, right? Because at the end of the day, like most results are just a matter of time.
Yeah.
A matter of time and commitment, really.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
commitment.
The consistency, 100%. I mean, you made a good point as far as like that you don't like to do things over and over again. That it gets kind of mundane. I think it's mundane when you don't have a goal that you're trying to reach. Because in reality, you are going to have to do the same thing over and over and over and over. And those are the ones that, as we've done like past live shows and we talk about, Kobe taking how many hundreds of shots over and over and over again daily, like you're going to get to that point to where a lot of things are, you're not perfect because you're human, but if you can get to that 9.9 out of 10,
yeah.
Then, you've already gotten to a certain level. But, if you're just working something and you're just kind of mindless in it to where you don't know where this is gonna go, where is it headed, I'm just doing this for a check, or I'm just doing this to I guess pay something that you have to do or something like that. But when you have a goal like the student loans or paying off a car, it's like, all right, I'm gonna stick to this plan, I'm gonna keep doing this, I see the results, but I know this is gonna take me, I don't know, it could take someone 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, depending on what you're trying to do. And you have to stick with it until something might happen to where maybe it doesn't work anymore. You know, have we've seen like sneakers, you know, or let's say we go back to like 2019 compared till now, it's a big difference. And we know that the same shoes aren't going to make the same amount of money now.
Right.
It's a totally different time. So you have to make that decision. Like, am I going to pivot, and how can I still kind of like stay on the same track, but with using different elements?
Yeah, some
I
modification,
guess.
right?
Yeah.
Like they always say, don't change the goal. Adjust something along the way.
Yeah, adjust the
Yeah.
approach.
Adjust the approach.
Yeah.
I like what you said, that it's only mundane when you don't have a goal.
Yeah, true.
That's gonna be your tagline, bro. That's gonna be a quote. Doing something over and over again is only mundane if you don't have a goal. But Glenn to be a junior, aka Hustler Hacks, greatest of all time.
Well, I
So-
think that sorry, I was just gonna throw in that. I mean, we've seen it throughout the years too. For you know, as long as I've known Ken, and like what have worked and what has not worked, that we've both done. And when something isn't working, we pivot. And I'm not like one to say, like, if someone was like, "Hey, your YouTube channel is dying," it's like, well, I'm not ashamed of. Like, I would like to post content, but I'm also very happy with my business results right now.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so that's kind of
It's
difficult
intentional
to.
shift.
Yeah, we can't do everything, but
Yeah.
we are turning different focus. You know, at one point, Ken's focus was on Whatnot. And then before that, it was really on eBay. But before that, it was on retail ARB and going hard in the paint, getting cartfuls of cleats at Burlington. Like,
Yeah.
you know, things had changed, but he's finding progress and results and goals in different avenues, kind of. So, I don't know. It's you just have to keep. But the ones that stay the same, though, are usually the ones that start to complain that, man, this used to work. This was so well. Now this and this and this, like all these things to blame on, whether it is inflation,
Right.
or Nike's not having good stuff, or the president, or something. That's what makes
All
it
of the
difficult for them
above.
to move on,
Right.
Yeah.
and to find success in other ways.
No, I think that's a good point, Anna. Like, I think I want to hear what your take on this is. When we say process, I'm thinking it doesn't mean doing this, literally doing the same thing over and over again, right? I think it's just it might be just a schedule or a pattern, or would it be like a percentage of energy spent towards something? Because like what Glenn said, they tend to complain, but yeah, if you're listing one item a day and it doesn't align to your goal, then that's when complaining happens. What's your take on that?
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, when Glenn was talking about Kobe, I was thinking, so all things being equal, when you get the more consistent, or I guess as consistent as you are taking the shots, you become that consistent in making the shots, right? Over time,
Yeah.
if nothing else interferes, that's the trajectory.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, in life, a lot of the time other things interfere. Some of it's controllable, some of it's not controllable. But I kind of think like you're onto something there, Ken, because maybe it's like knowing when to pivot, or knowing when to change the kind of mechanics of how you're doing something. I think all of that can still kind of fall under the umbrella of the same process, the approach that you're taking, the energy you're putting toward it, the attitude you have about it, right? Like all of us should be always kind of tweaking our processes if we're not checked out of what we're doing. That just naturally happens, right? When you're trying to be more efficient. You know, I know we've given this example before, but like, I don't want to think about how many years that I took photos without my photo already set into a square. And I had to crop every single photo that I uploaded to eBay because I just didn't think of it. You know, like how many hours of my life did I spend cropping photos I wouldn't have had to crop? You know, so in that case, it's like, well, technically, like on a really like picky level, like I changed my process, right?
Right.
But But
it's
that
still,
was
it's still the taking photo, right? But
yeah, right.
Within
Like
the
that
taking
was
photo, you've
yes.
improved something.
Yeah,
That
that's one little task, and I think, you know, if your process is you're following through, you know, you're cycling items through your store, you're going through this whole life cycle of sourcing, listing, shipping, right? And so all throughout those reps that you're putting in with every single item that you deal with, like, of course you're improving your processes and you're trying to do more of what works, right? That's kind of the granular level. But like ultimately, like even you making those improvements as you go and growing and learning as you go, that is the process, right? That part is what we're talking about. Like that's the process that you have to trust. And I think honestly, a lot of this, where it can be really difficult, especially maybe when you're in business for yourself, is to trust yourself. Because, you know, to some extent, we're all just winging it. To some more than others. Some of us enjoy winging it more than others, for sure, Ken. But looking at you, Ken. But I think that that's something that we need to be really intentional as we're trusting the process. I think part of that is looking at our own progress and looking at our wins and looking at also how we respond to our failures. And instead of just blaming everything and everybody else and complaining, like we need to give ourselves credit for all the iterations we have made.
Right.
And we need to open our eyes afresh to look around for what iterations we can make going forward if we feel like, you know, if for whatever reason we're not happy with how the process is serving us right now, or we're not happy with the results we're getting. But I want to kind of toss this back to you guys too, like just thinking about how do you, when you're trusting the process, because we've all trusted the process here, right? Like all of us, we've been doing this long enough that there's been ebbs and flows in our, you know, in our sales and our various metrics and our, maybe in our sense of success in some ways. But like, how do you sort out kind of the controllables and the not controllables? Like, how can we kind of accept that there are just things that are out of our control while also continuing to trust the process, continuing to kind of push forward and improve? Like, what do you think? How does all that work together?
What do you think, Lim?
Well, I was going to say it's kind of a combination between sometimes if you don't trust the process completely, you stop it, I guess, like sooner than what you should. Yeah. And in your case, you're talking about something that comes in to kind of like disrupt that process by random things that happen.
Right.
And in that case, which, you know, we've seen it before too, I think you have to take that break and figure it out and handle that part or whatever that is at hand.
The interference.
And then you start again. Right. Yeah. Then you start again. Sometimes ends up being from, you know, the lowest level all over again. Because this one thing ended up being huge. Maybe it's small and you can get back on track and maybe you're only like 2 steps behind.
Yeah, kind of pick up where you left off.
Yeah. But sometimes even when these things come in, you can reevaluate the plan and maybe it's kind of stops you for a little bit to see if that's like, is this really working or not? Now that I have this little break, you know, maybe I should look at this again.
That's true. Getting some space or some distance from it can sometimes help you see, you know, if there's a next move to make. But, you know, I think like you were talking earlier about kind of shifting priorities, like owning it, right? Like owning it when you're shifting priorities or you're kind of making a pivot of some kind or whatever, even like in a small way. You know, how do you know if you're like, okay, I want to try this, say it's like, okay, like for example, actually this is a great example. Say that you're me and you're trying listing on other platforms for the first time, right? Okay, I'm going to list 100 items on this platform and see if anything happens. And like, I don't know, the jury is out on whether I have abandoned this process prematurely, but like how many items would I list on another platform before deciding it's not working? You know, like how I think that's a tough spot for a lot of people, is like deciding when it is not worth the squeeze and when to just quickly reiterate and move on. And again, trust that overall large process of like, I'm finding what works in my business by trying stuff, because I know that it's a well-established characteristic of successful entrepreneurs that they quickly quit something that doesn't work and try something else.
Yeah.
But on the other side of that coin, it's like consistency is where the magic is, right? So like, how do we balance those two things?
I think it's with experience for sure. What you said is there has to be constant evaluation.
Yeah.
And the most frequent times I catch myself evaluating myself is when things aren't going my way.
Absolutely. I bet that's very common.
Meaning when it's, whether it's in control or not in my control, I always go into like, wait, what could have I done differently? Instead of like whose fault it is, right? I think the two killer mindsets, killer like would kill a dream, or killer would
dream
dominate.
Killers.
Right? There's two killers, right? The one that kills
There's
your
two
dream,
killers in each of us,
and the one that literally would kill it for real. Is the mentality of when something disrupts the process, one would go like, wait, whose fault was that, right? And the other one is like, what could I do differently? And I think the latter, the person that says what can I do differently, actually refines the process, that next time down the road it doesn't happen again. One of the most minuscule things that we have done and changed within our shipping process is because we ship on FedEx and USPS most of the times, because authenticity guarantee goes FedEx.
Right.
And we've had like almost accidental drops at the wrong location, right? Like a USPS bag would, almost get dropped off to FedEx and be like, oh, this is the wrong label. And I was like, that was like, I literally paused and I was like, this can't happen again. And I was like,
we caught it this time,
right? Instead of being apologetic, it's like, oh man, like that, like being like, oh, now I have to drive back to the wrong place. Instead of like, like spending time on that, worrying, I obviously like, what can we do differently?
Yeah.
The smallest adjustment is that FedEx will have a red tape. USPS would have a green or yellow tape.
Yeah.
Red is always FedEx. Red is like, kind of like your error, right? Red is like a very eye-catching, because FedEx usually is more important. FedEx are usually more expensive.
It's like
sneakers.
alert.
Yeah, it's like alert. So after we did that, it's like, it's not like the process has like almost like, I would say at that point it's perfect, because it's so visual.
It's so
right?
easy and
it's so easy to identify. So I think those are the two things that you have to put those certain evaluations in place and actually act upon it right away.
Well, yeah.
That way you have more confidence in your process.
Boom. And
right?
that goes back to trusting yourself, because I was thinking, okay, what is the person who hems and haws and gets all disappointed that now they have to drive across town and they're kicking themselves? What an idiot. I can't believe that almost happened. That would have been a catastrophe, right? Like,
you're beating like, yourself up, then that? You're not confident on that self, right?
Yeah, that's just, and that is like, that's the difference. Like, you in your equation, when you identify that problem, you're not spending any time like feeling shame about it, right? You're just like, that's just that was an error. But that doesn't mean that you're stupid or you're not capable. It just means you made an error, and the error should be prevented, period. And that's it. Yeah. So I think that happens way more times than people admit or maybe are totally aware of when they're running their own business, because you are your business, right? Yeah. So whenever it's all on you, it's like, the good news is it's all up to you. The bad news is it's all up to you. And so when something even catastrophic like that almost happens, it kind of hits you, right? So,
it's like, who packed this? It's me. Who delivered this? It's me. But who found the solution? It's me.
But I think like somebody needs to hear that like you have a choice about whether you're gonna waste your energy beating yourself up. Like, just own it and don't dabble in all that shame. Just
Yep.
find the solution and get the glory for the solution too.
Yeah.
Like,
For sure.
it balances out, you know?
So I think, I guess on the reseller side, things that do work for you, I mean, you have to keep going, keep pushing. What do you guys have any goal that you've been trying to hit or did hit or were reselling for a certain reason goal wise that you could remember, or why you're doing it now, or anything you want to throw in of your why?
I mean, I think when you said the why, it's really important, you know, to have that. I think one of the things that we have kind of like determined for this year is, I think this is probably the first year, or maybe like the first year and a half of really realizing that, okay, this year we're gonna try to build a process of quality of life instead of growing a business, because a lot of times growing a business is just
The numbers.
your numbers, and your quality of life is not there, health not really there, sleep not really there. So I think that's one of the things that we've realized, that because we have instilled a process, because like the fear is always going to be there of like, man, what if I can't pay my bills?
Right.
And I think that's the biggest thing. Like, I can't let my foot on the gas. But at the end of the day, right, like even the most high-powered cars or will have to cruise at some point. You can't just, you know, anything that you do pedal to the metal at some point will just blow, right?
Yeah.
It will just like explode. And I think you have to like find that in you. And I think that's one of the things that really have helped me put my head high. Like, oh, I'm not making as much money as I did, but wait, like I'm becoming the healthiest
Healthier.
version of myself.
And living more of
also-
a life.
Yeah, and like, and also like being able to create newer and different things, like my aquariums, like figuring out plants, like figuring out podcasts. I think those are things that, if you look at the bigger picture, I'm just building more arsenal and skills under my belt, that if I look at myself after 5-10 years and be like, wait, I'm a reseller, but I've built all these skills along the way that I can use on whatever endeavor I move on. So that's kind of like how I see that.
Well, yeah, and we've talked about, you know, dividing your focus. Like when you spread yourself too thin, you don't have as much efficacy, you don't have as much power, right, in what you're doing. But at the same time, as life comes and goes, and you know, things change, and you want to learn new skills or whatever, you have different focus, you have different priorities. Like if you build a business that has really solid processes, that's also a time to trust the process. Like your store can keep running even if you do, you know, 80% or 70% of the effort that you were doing. If your processes are good, then it's going to keep running, you know? Like, I mean, my store has been relatively slow for the last year, like since before I moved and all that. I had my best year ever right before I moved. And, you know, I can definitely, what am I trying to say? I get like tempted to be bummed sometimes. I'm like, man, my store is just not what it was before. But I have to remember that while I wasn't listing things for like a year, like I made a full-time income on nothing new for a year. Like that is crazy. And I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing that because as I've learned, it's taking a while to kind of get back up to speed. But like, wow, I must have had some at least decent processes, or that would have fallen apart in a couple of months. And it didn't. Like, it worked, you know? Like, it's slower now than it was. I haven't gotten back to that previous glory of momentum. And, of course, like we've said, there's uncontrollables, too. The economy's different than it was a couple years ago, etc. But, like, those processes like actually carried my store in a time where I was adding nothing new and only selling down for like months upon months. So I think that's pretty cool. Like I don't know any other jobs that have that much kind of flexibility, and that was like a real test, right? Like I did not have a backup plan for that. So I'm glad that it worked, but at the same time, the position I find myself in now with my store, like Glenn, you were asking if we have specific goals. I mean, I would like to see my store at its former glory in terms of the metrics and the sales and stuff. And so what am I doing? I'm doubling down and I'm getting consistent about listing. Like I'm, hiring another contractor to help me with photos so I don't get bottlenecked. And we're just going to like power through the summer and get some momentum back, because I believe that doing those same things that have always worked are going to work again. And I'm hoping to do every, micro process within the life cycle of the items. I'm hoping to do all of that stuff better than I did it before.
Yep.
But the overall strategy is pretty much the same,
Yeah. You just become more efficient over time, right?
For sure. And, there are changes for sure, but in what I'm sourcing and how much I'm willing to spend per item, like some of that stuff has really shifted since the last time I was really pumping inventory into my store. But right now is the time to kind of trust that process and just pick up some more momentum by doing what works. So that's kind of where I'm at. And I know there's a whole conversation about like, does just listing more stuff like really make more money, blah blah. It's not all about just listing more stuff. There's a lot of factors in there.
The simple answer is yes. Once you
but you can't sell what you don't have listed. So there's that, that's the kind of basic level at which I'm talking about this.
Yeah.
But my goal is to kind of touch where I was before so that I know. I mean, a little bit of it is like, I want to prove that to myself in a way of like, I can do what works to get it back there. And it's not going to be like, oh, remember that one amazing year where every year was like growth year after year after year, and then you moved and then nothing was ever the same again. Like, I just don't believe that's the story. I don't believe in that narrative, and I want to see it through and see things really grow. But Glenn, I ultimately wanted to pay off my student loans with my store, like when it was my part-time gig. For like 3 years, I had a private practice and my eBay store was like my side hustle. And then basically I decided, So at first it was offsetting the income I wasn't making at my practice because I was taking fewer clients because I was really burned out. So I was like, great. Now that that's more balanced, anything I make beyond that, I'm going to use to pay off my loans. But around that time, I decided, actually, I'm going to do the store full time. So then it had to be responsible for all of my income. So I've never made it around to that yet. And that's kind of my goal with ramping my store back up to new heights, is to just crush that once and for all, because you did it, so I can do it.
Oh, there we go. I like that.
I'm going to go out and I'm going to get it.
Yeah.
That's
get
what I'm
it.
saying.
Get God and pay
That's
it.
what I learned from
God and pay it.
My goal,
go out,
my goal right now, exactly. Go and pay it back. My goal right now has turned into like being debt free. I have one debt left, which is my house. And I owe $80,000 left, which I'm like,
Dude,
I feel like I could get
you'll have
there.
that cleaned up by July.
Oh man, I'm hoping by the end of the year, just to have
few more shows.
Few more shows.
Party? Can we have a party at your house when you pay it off?
Yeah, that way, man.
yeah.
We can just smash your house.
And so, and
We're not
even
gonna
then,
smash his house.
Smash
no,
it.
no.
We talked
Ken.
about last time. I know Ken was saying like, oh, he's thinking about getting like a new house and things like that, and it did cross my mind a lot too. Like, do I really want to get like in debt again?
Yeah.
You know, like it's almost like a never-ending cycle. And even though I could use as much room as possible for inventory, I almost look at it as like you're paying, let's say, $225 for a storage unit that you actively use per month.
Yeah.
Compared to
Adding
even my
1,000
lowest end right now is like $350 a month on interest.
Yeah.
Right.
On a house. So and that's even on the lowest. Interest right now is like double. Yeah. So what are you going to pay?
Yeah, the interest rates are horrible.
Yeah, it's out of control. So like, what are you going to be paying on interest per month on a new loan?
A newer house.
Because you're staying in El Paso, right?
Yeah, I'm not going anywhere.
I'm like, you can move to my town and you could probably just like buy the house in cash, honestly.
Or we could just all buy a gated
compound?
property, a
Yeah.
compound will be
There
like
we
that.
go. I would go to
So-
Cincinnati, but I don't like the cold.
Oh yeah,
he
it's
doesn't like
cold
the
here
cold.
too. You're not gonna
Yeah.
like it.
Oh yeah, I think it's worse than that is.
Come
Oh,
visit
yeah,
in the
you-
summer, Glenn. It's really hot in the summer.
Yeah, that I could do. Cold,
Yeah.
nah.
No, I actually I'm starting to like lean towards that kind of like thinking what Glenn's saying, because connecting it, I think the process is the journey, right?
Yeah.
Building and creating the process, it's actually the journey that you live, because when I think journey, it is the time spent that you cannot get back anymore or you cannot rewind. So when you say enjoy the life journey or enjoy the journey, I feel like you have to enjoy the process that you create over time. Whether the enjoyment is during or knowing that it will be after it's done. There's gonna be like, and I'm going through with it right now because like, like I'm getting to a point where I'm becoming a really better runner than what I was, and for me to push to the next level, it's really hard. Like right now, where I'm at. So like I did decide that okay, I'm gonna stay here for a while, and then I'm gonna shift into weightlifting again, and still now I'll have a better running skill that I've added to my arsenal that I could have not gotten. And looking at time and process, if I didn't have changed anything, I would have still been here weightlifting and not have a better running ability. So I'm like, wait, so like almost a year has passed, and yeah, I may be in better shape, but did I actually add another skill? So I think that's how I look at business too. A year has passed. What kind of skill have I added? Even like in my social media journey, a year has passed. What have we added in? And I think with marketing and branding, what have we added in? And I think it would always be like one of the major processes that we've entered, I think us three, is really creating this podcast.
Yeah.
And it's pretty funny, like right before we recorded, it's like I literally said we're getting pretty good at this. I mean, but that's after 50 reps.
So Ken's the one who jinxed it, for anyone who hates this episode.
No, I think what is that process or the journey, kind of like when we talk about process, if it's the journey, what are the things that you guys actually enjoy the most or price the most that you get out of the process?
I would say, like, I know you guys see me as like working a lot, and a lot of people do too, like working all the time. But for me, it's just like that freedom to.
Yeah.
I mean,
But you have said though you don't work as much as everybody think, because now you're just more efficient, right?
Yeah, which is also part of that process on like making adjustments to be quicker and to not have to spend so much, like, I guess, wasted time figuring things out because you already have figured it out. So now it's a matter of just doing them and then building. Do it, build it, do it, build it, and keep going. And I know we've talked about this before too, but I just don't want to. I don't want to hire somebody if I have to be taking care of them. And we've seen, like, at least I've seen, so many people that I know, and even like stores that we've gone to and things, and like even at my own post office, it's like every Saturday almost somebody calls in, and I'm like, it's just like, and there's nothing to it, right? Like you could just call in, not show up. Stores like, all right, call in, or just on their phone all day, or just like, and I'm like, I don't want to trust in somebody and then like 2 weeks or even maybe even sooner, it's just there's nothing there anymore, or I have to babysit or things like that.
You already have one baby.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And with what right now with, my wife's going to work out a lot more now. We're trying to figure out that thing. Like, I check orders and lists in the morning. I go to the gym, and after that, I actually don't work until like 3 p.m. So, which is a huge difference to where it was before. To where I'd leave at like 7:30 to get at Ross at 8 a.m. early
Sometimes
to try to
eat
find stuff.
breakfast. Sometimes punish yourself by not eating
Yeah.
breakfast.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so it's a totally different
listening.
thing now. I was listening. So
No, that's
yeah, it just
that's pretty cool that you have created that. I mean, like what you've refined the process to a point that you're enjoying it now, right?
Yeah.
Do you do you think that there is an X amount of weeks of process adjustment before you settle in one? Is there like
habit forming,
yeah,
or-
like how many people say like 21 days or something like that? What is that for you that you think is like becomes a thing?
Man, that's a tough call, huh? I think
What do you think,
I mean,
Anna?
30 days
Yeah.
might be a good
30.
but
How's Glenn supposed to know? Because once he starts something, he never stops.
I mean, how old are you? 38 years.
He never pauses to check. Like, have I habituated this yet?
Yeah, just kind of like his
The
YouTube
answer
channel.
is
After
yes.
5 years,
When?
he just gets a plaque, right? He just gets a plaque. It's like,
Yeah, he's like-
oh,
Like, probably 5 years will do it.
yeah.
That's
And,
it.
like right after he pays his house, it's like, that's how long it takes.
Suddenly, Glenn becomes the most undisciplined, sloppy individual we've
Yeah.
ever known. When his house gets paid off, it's like,
Oh
what
man.
happened?
He
The
builds a
funny-
pool. He digs a pool by hand.
The funny thing is I told the wife too, like, I know this is a 30-year loan, but we're going to pay it in 10.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that was the goal.
that was your
And
goal.
Right now we're at year 7.
Yeah.
Oh, sheesh.
You're going to crush it.
So it's
You're gonna
definitely
you've saved
possible
so
it's
much
going to happen.
interest.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, your bank
Good
better
for
buy you
you.
a
The banks
cake
are like,
after. Oh,
you paid
no,
off
actually,
it
you
too
might have to-
soon.
Yeah, you might have to give your bank a cake after that.
check the clause. Check
We
all
want
the
to milk
clauses.
that from you even more. It's like,
Yeah.
you want another
Uh, the-
loan?
They're
This
just
is
gonna
what-
be
this is
sending
what-
you like nonstop HELOC offers. Like,
Yeah, this is
Right.
what Glenn's gonna buy. Glenn, you're finally gonna buy the Ferrari, the Lambo, right? After
Just
this,
After that, that's the next goal.
he's gonna buy it with cash.
that's
so
what
he
I'm
has
saying.
to-
Like
then
it's
he
just
has
he's
to
debt
save up
free.
for
He
that,
just buys
yeah.
everything. Yeah,
It
And he's
costs
just
more
gonna-
than the house that I live in.
Yeah.
The car that's in the garage.
Yeah.
But I think the hardest thing that I would say for the process, though, is like year after year. Okay, let's say you're trying to pay off a house. Let's say in 10 years, when you're in year 3 and 4, you're still far away, but you're
Yeah.
making progress, and you know you have to keep going, but you didn't hit like a major milestone. Maybe I don't know. It's like you're at
Yeah.
that point to where like it's getting there.
Like the
just
non-celebratory
feels
so
phase,
far.
right?
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah.
that's the hardest. Those are the hardest ones to keep going on.
Yeah.
That's true.
So, I
And
mean,
are you like
could
a
test
time-bound?
results?
Are you like a time-bound person to create a process?
I don't know. I mean, in some ways, I'm not like, believe it or not, I write everything down. I always have a schedule. I always have a to-do list, but I don't do, like, no 2 days are the same in my week, like, ever. I don't have that regimented of processes. Like, when I go, I always ship stuff on time. Whenever it is that I go to ship, it's like, I do the same stuff, but it might be first thing in the morning or it might be at 10 o'clock at night. It just like depends on what's going on that day. But that's kind of what Glenn was saying too. Like, it's so rewarding to me to have the flexibility in my life within one day like that. But also just to situate things. I was actually talking to a friend of mine earlier today who also runs her own business, and she was like, yeah, sometimes sometimes I feel like, do I even have boundaries? Like, I'm always the one who's being flexible around everyone else's schedule. But honestly, like, I was telling her, like, yeah, I kind of do the same thing. But to me, it's like such a gift that I have
Right.
the flexibility. And so if everyone else has like a really strict schedule because they work a 9 to 5 and they have all these things that are immovable in their schedule, but I can, slightly alter mine. It doesn't even inconvenience me, and it makes everything work for everybody. Like, of course I'm going to do that, And I think that's awesome. Like, to me, that's something I can contribute to my relationships that are important to me. So anyway, that is really rewarding. So I don't know. I'm not sure about the time bound thing. Like, do you mean in the sense of like creating a habit or
Right, if you're trying to switch something, right? Like something clicks after. For me, like,
Okay.
I don't know, for some I take forever. I don't know why.
to like
Because
pull the
maybe I'm
trigger or
sporadic.
to actually get
I
used
think
to the
I
new
feel
thing?
like the working out thing. Yeah, I think the working out thing, although it's like schedule, right? I think it took me like 6 months, 7 months to be
Yeah.
able to like, okay, this is it, right? Like right now, me and JC have like a what do you call that?
Non-negotiable.
Non-negotiable, and like when we know that it hits 11 a.m., we're like slowly we're moving into loading up the car, getting ourselves ready because our class is at 12.
Yeah.
And we're trying to get there at 11:45 to have enough for stretching and stuff like that. So it's like before it's like it's almost like like you know when you have that panic,
it doesn't
but,
like sink in yet.
yeah, it doesn't sink in yet. And I think like literally like I think even like the last 2 months, 3 months have been like solid. Like okay, and you know we don't forget things, right? Like
Yeah.
oh my water bottle, like oh my, like
Yeah.
we don't like. I think that's kind of like where I think I evaluate things like okay, like either like I've forced myself to really think that this is what it will take to get me to my physical health or to my business, like our goal is to our business is like no matter what it is, like the working space got to be clean. Like we got to start clean, right? Like don't start a new project, don't start a listing pile unless the whole place around you is clean.
Yeah.
Because you're just going to be less and then those are the things that we've implemented. And so like shifting
So now
to,
it's like second nature.
yeah,
You
when
don't
it
have to
happens
think
second
about
nature.
it or
yeah,
make yourself
habits,
do it.
right? Like habits. And then when people look at you, right? Like it's like, "Oh man, you're so organized." I was like, now I feel like, yeah, you know, like yeah, but like I don't feel as happy
Yeah.
because you know like the pain it took to
Yeah.
like sink
You're like,
into.
yeah, and I earned it.
Yeah, yeah, I know every bit of it. So like,
Yeah.
give me more compliment, please.
Yeah.
But shifting the gears to, you know, we've talked mindset. Let's challenge everybody that's listening to this, and I kind of like told you guys the challenges I'm gonna be doing for the next 30 days, and I've opened my mouth, and I'm probably gonna have to just stick with it now. So my personal actionable steps that I'm gonna be doing, that we're gonna be challenging everybody. I mean, well, you guys are. They it's not prep. They're thinking right now. In the next 30 days,
Yeah.
what are the actionable steps? Few actionable steps that we are going to be implementing, business wise or health wise. It don't matter where you want to focus it, but I'm going to be doing it in a business wise sense. That in the next 30 days, I'm going to commit to listing 5 items that I'm thrifting or raiding my closet from.
Every day for 30 days?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So you're going to list 150 thrifted items?
Yeah. 150 items.
That's
Not
a
playing
lot.
around, not messing around.
No. You're not.
150 thrifted items.
I'm
in
going to
my-
do that too, but that's
150.
my usual.
I probably have like 30 shorts and pants combined that I can list that I've just,
There you go.
so you know,
You got a
and
good
then-
head start.
Yeah, I mean like no, I mean like I don't have. I mean like not spending. Not spending is just really pulling from my either collection or my closet. So that's
Oh,
gonna be my
gotcha.
challenge for the next 30 days. So, what do you guys think?
Interesting. You
And
gotta
everybody
give us
that's listening,
updates.
you
You
got
gotta give us updates.
huh?
you gotta give us
I'm probably gonna make it a series. I'm definitely gonna make it a series.
Cool.
I think that'd be something cool.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I think that's something that's very relatable and very
Yeah.
doable to people that could see it in action from day one. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's a great idea.
If I could do mental math quick enough, Glenn, I'd be like, Glenn's gonna pay $2,000 off his mortgage every day for the next 30 days, or whatever it would take to get
Like 30 days, I'll not pay off my 20,
I can't.
200.
My brain
something
can't
like
do the math
in
right
30
now
days.
for some reason.
I guess some short term, or I have two goals that I'm trying to work on that are going to change. My first one is this week, I guess depending when you're listening to this, but I'm going to try to start getting shoes, like older stuff. Like I know I have a lot of like Nike Golf and a lot of stuff like that, and try to sell more of that than apparel on whatnot. So I want to start cleaning up a lot of the storage unit into things that are just have not been moving at all on eBay, and to just kind of get that money back. Yeah, clearance them out, get that money back. My other goal is, I don't know how long this is going to take, but 1,000 jerseys listed.
And
that
like
means
at once currently listed.
Currently listed.
Like your count is 1,000, so the sell-through is gonna constantly thwart you.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
And
are you saying you're starting with 0 today? Or you already have some listed?
Yeah, I already have some listed.
Okay.
But I guess the fun part about it is knowing that like there's none listed less than 100.
Yeah.
So that's 100,000
That is
automatically
fun.
on the jersey. So I have to
That's
figure
more than
that
your
out.
mortgage.
Yeah. yeah, I paid my house with jerseys.
Yeah. This is the jersey house.
Yeah, I went to the bank and traded the jerseys for a house.
A house.
I just had to go through eBay to collect the money.
Right now it's been wild because the Luca ones have been flying.
Oh.
I wonder why.
I know.
I know.
They were
bandwagoners.
so long.
I know.
I have to double check mine. I might have to release mine. But mine's All Star though. It's not the regular one.
Oh.
In your business, though, you cannot knock the bandwagoners. They make you a lot of money.
Yeah, he loves them.
I
He gives them an
know.
extra.
The water's
Glenn,
fine.
you should get like a sticker, like a bandwagon sticker. And just put it, let's say thank you. Put it in every
Thank
order.
you on every package.
Yeah. Oh, wagon.
Thank you. Oh man, it's hilarious. I always like whenever they send me messages though, like, oh, can you send this out as soon as you can? Like, final start here, or you know, the championship. I'm like, oh, it's already going out tomorrow. Go Mavs! And they're like, yeah, go Mavs.
They're like, I love Lucas.
Not Lucas.
I love
He's
Lucas.
the best.
Lucas is my favorite.
Oh man. So yeah, those are my short term, and then short term thing I'm working on, longer thing I'm working on. The jersey thing, I don't know how long that's gonna take. That's gonna be a while.
That's interesting though. Do you have a guess?
Oh man, I don't. No, I don't. I don't even know how many I have right now. There's so many that I have to list.
1,000. If you
1,000.
If you do like 100 days, that's 10 items.
List 10 a day.
jerseys. Yeah, not bad.
And then how many are gonna sell?
100 days. Yeah.
That's the one that's gonna
That's-
take it
yeah.
down. Is like how many.
Well, like
sell.
finals is gonna be done for NBA is gonna be done, so you might have like some.
True.
But
I think what will
summer-
help me is get all the
Like
NFL ones because the season hasn't started. So
Yeah.
get all
You'll get
those
there.
up.
Maybe you'll get there by Christmas.
What's the day? On our July, August, September, October. October, you'll be there. By fall, you'll be there. By
fall.
By Halloween.
Perfect Q4. Q4
Halloween.
time.
Well-
Halloween. That's your goal. Halloween, Glenn.
True.
What
I
if-
You
think
love
that's a good
Halloween.
goal.
Glenn
I
loves
do.
Halloween. That's his
I
favorite
do.
holiday. You gotta.
Mine too.
See, there you go.
Weirdos.
What
I'm
if
joking.
you pay off your house and hit 1,000 jerseys on the same day?
by Halloween? Do that.
It's got to be Halloween.
Yeah, it's gotta be by Halloween.
gotta
It's
be
either this
on
Halloween or
Halloween.
next Halloween. Just like.
Well,
I
see,
like
another one just sold.
Oh, oh,
Yep.
sheesh.
I
Yeah.
saw it. I saw the receipts, guys.
Yeah.
It's true.
So that's I like that. I think Halloween's doable.
Yeah. What about you,
doable.
Anna?
Well, I feel like my fits and starts of listings since I've moved here, sometimes I have a bottleneck of photos, like clothing photos especially, take a long time and I save them for last, and then I have a pile, but I wouldn't say a death pile, but there's a temporary pile sometimes. But the other fits and starts is about that I'm not regularly sourcing. So my goal is actually about sourcing. And I'm kind of a binger, so I'm not going to say that I will source every day or something like that, but every week I want to go to at least 3 sources.
Okay, every week.
And
I like that. 3 every
that
week.
that's like doable for me. That is at least like per week is kind of the level of consistency that makes sense for me for all the other ways, the way my life is orchestrated. Right. So, you know, a lot of the activities that like listing and photos and stuff like that, I like to do like a whole day of those or something. I don't do like a little bit each day usually. So, you know, I will be doing more of that stuff in response, but I think for me and my processes, it has to start with sourcing, right? So, if I get consistent about that, then the next step is to get consistent about listing it. And I'm in the middle of training somebody to do photos with me here, and that is going to light a fire under my own seat, as well as, you know, relieve the bottlenecks of photos for me. So I think it's going to work well, actually. So yeah, the next 30 days, every week, or I guess I could say the next 4 weeks, right? Every week I'm going to go to at least 3 sources, and I actually already did that this past week. So I did a trial, a trial week.
Very nice. How was the trial run?
Trial run was great. I had the experience, I guess, a couple weeks before that. I went to a source I hadn't gone to in a long time. It's a thrift store kind of in the next town over that's really cool. I just had no idea like how frequently their stuff turned over, because I've never like gone there consistently since I've lived here, and other times I've been, I would just, you know, every 6 months I would go because that's how often I was in the state. So I got to see like after about 2 weeks what the turnover was like, and it was really good. Like I filled a shopping cart of stuff. And I had just been there 2 weeks before. So I was like, okay, great. This is like a viable, like regular source. Mm-hmm. And there's like another couple of sources that I love around here that are maybe like it's a once a month bag sale or stuff like that, that it's so easy to just, if I'm not looking out for it, I'll just miss it. And then it's another month until it happens. So I've kind of just been paying more attention to that stuff and scheduling it in so that, you know, I don't miss those kind of more temporary ones. Mm-hmm. But it did go really well. I was like, okay, this is great. It feels like out on a limb a little bit because, you know, on one hand, I have plenty of stuff for my new contractor to work on and to train on. But on the other hand, like if she doesn't get through it, or if I don't get through it, or if we don't work on it together enough, I'm going to have a big pile, and that's going to stress me out. I don't like having piles. Yep. So it is like I've put myself out there, so now there has to be follow through, you know?
Right. Well, I think those are great challenges that we came up with. I think, you know, we challenge everybody that's listening to this, create a 30-day challenge, whether it's small. For me, I think it's a non-spendy way besides time, because I'm just thrifting my closet and my collection. Glenn's got a bigger challenge with the 1,000 listings of Jersey, and with Anna, just a consistent sourcing strategy. I think that's gonna kind of like, you know, inject some new and different or better items with the knowledge that you have gained over time. And I think you know, pretty great discussion about trusting the process. You know, evaluate your process, challenge your process, refine your process. And just some quick reminders, make sure you check out eBay for Business podcast again, and also eBay for Sellers on IG. And since we have becoming more close with eBay government relationship as well, we are actually a part of the S-Band network also. So make sure you follow eBay for Main Street. So until then, we will see you on the next episode. And that is a wrap. Peace.
See ya.
Bye.